Hello everyone and welcome back to Beatly Tones Beatles channel. Lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining me for this video and I hope you're all doing well. As you know, on this channel I like to bring you breaking news when there is some, and there is some. It was announced last week by Super Deluxe Edition. I'm on their mailing list. It was announced by them that this compilation, Let It Roll, Songs of George Harrison from 2009, is coming out on vinyl for the first time. It's going to be a 2 LP set and it's released on the 11th of July. Now, when they broke the news, they had a pre-order link that went directly to Amazon, but there was no link to georgeharrison.com, so I wasn't sure whether it was 100% official. That's why I didn't do a video last week, but it is now listed on the George Harrison website. Now, when this was announced last week, if you went to the pre-order link on Amazon, this was up for £70 in the UK, and which is a lot of money for a double album. And now it's on the George Harrison site. It's there for £45, which is a much more reasonable price for this compilation. And in fact, on Amazon now, the price has come down to £51.99. And if you go to the George Harrison site and buy it for 45 quid, you'll probably pay about £5 post and packing if you're in the UK. And so it's around the same price on both sites. Now, I'm not against there being a George Harrison compilation, because I realised that we had Living in Material World box set last year, so we're kind of in between box sets. I think Dark Horse will probably be the next one, but it probably won't come out until next year, so this is a kind of a fill-in thing. But this compilation that's coming out on on LP came out on CD in 2009, and it's a good compilation. That is the track listing. I'll just hold it there so you can pause and read it. It's a good compilation, but the LP version that's coming out is just a digital transfer of this. There's no remixing, there's no extra tracks, there's nothing new. There's nothing new for us here. All it is that on 2 LPs. So you can buy that for 10 quid, or you can buy the double LP for 45 quid. The choice is yours if you don't already have it. So I get a bit angry when we just get a release for the sake of a release without much point to it. Now, I understand that the point of a compilation is to either to summarize for existing fans or introduce new fans. That's the kind of point of a compilation. But for existing fans this time, we're not getting anything different than we got here in 2009, apart from it's on 2 LPs. It's not going to sound any better because it's just a copy of this, and as I say, there's no remixing or anything like that. But let's before we talk about what's coming in depth, let's just have a little summary of George Harrison's compilations to date, because it's been a bit of a checkered history. So we go back to 1976 for the first George Harrison compilation, which was called The Best of George Harrison. Now, when you call something the best of George Harrison, there's a difference between a compilation called The Best of and a compilation called The Greatest Hits of, because when you say the best of, you're not just talking about hit singles, and you've got the license to stick a few key album tracks on it. So the best of gives you that license. But when the Best of George Harrison came out in 1976, they gave him one side of solo material and one side of Beatles songs written by George Harrison, which just seemed grossly unfair when John and Ringo had both had compilations in 1975, Shaved Fish and Blast From Your Past, which were completely solo material. So George was cut a rough deal, I felt, in 1976 with the Best of George Harrison. In the UK, we had a different sleeve to the one in the US. The sleeve in the US was just appalling. It's just absolutely appalling. It looks like George's head is on a penis, and it was about as welcome as a bonus track on a Coldplay album. And it was so bad I didn't even buy it, because back in 1976 I didn't buy compilation albums. If I already had all the tracks, money was much tighter back then, and so I never ever bought the best of George Harrison, just for that reason, that that was my rule. If I had already had it, I didn't need it again. Things have changed now, but that was my rule back then, so I've never bothered to buy the best of George Harrison. Now, in 1989 we got this compilation, The Best of Dark Horse, a really, really good compilation, and it had 3 bonus tracks on it that had never been released before: Cheer Down, Poor Little Girl, and Cockamamie Business. All really good tracks. It was a good selection. This covered the period from 33 1/3 to Cloud 9, and I thought this was a really, really good compilation, and because it had those 3 bonus tracks on it, it was an essential purchase to get this CD in 1989. It's really good. Now, 10 years later, we got this, and I do think this is a good compilation. It had nice packaging. It came with this booklet, which was very nice as well, which had an essay in it and some good pictures and stuff. I think that picture there, I think these 2 pictures here are going to be the inner sleeve pictures of the 2LP version that is coming. But I did think this was a good compilation. Now, I totally understand that no compilation album is perfect for everyone, because if you ask 100 fans, what songs would you put on a compilation album, you'd get 100 different answers. So not everyone is going to be completely satisfied with the song listing, the track listing on a compilation album. But I'll go through what is on this, because this is exactly the same as what is going to be on the 2LP version that's coming out in July. So it's got my mind set on You, Give Me Love, Ballad of Sir Frankie Crisp, Let It Roll, My Sweet Lord, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, which is a live version from the concert for Bangladesh, All Things Must Pass, Any Road, This Is Love, All Those Years Ago, Marble Blues, What Is Life, Rising Sun, When We Were Fab, Something live from the concert for Bangladesh, Blow Away, Cheer Down, Here Comes the Sun live from the concert for Bangladesh, I Don't Want to Do It, which was on, which came out officially on a George Harrison release for the first time, and Isn't It a Pity? So 19 tracks. That is what is on this CD. That is what is going to be on the LP. Now, I don't want to come across as that bloke, the one that is always criticising and berating the George Harrison camp for what they are doing with their re-release program, because I totally understand that it is not an easy task, because on one hand you've got to appease existing fans, give them something that they want, give them something that they can get excited about, but on the other hand you also want to attract new fans, young fans, to George Harrison's music. It's not an easy job. I totally get that, but I'm aware that a couple of months ago, when they announced what was being released for Record Store Day, I wasn't happy. I'm talking about the George Harrison All Things Must Pass Zoetrope release, which I called a lazy release. I thought it was a lazy release because when you see all the things that are being announced for Record Store Day from other bands, they're all giving their fans, lots of things that they haven't had, live music, live recordings, unreleased tracks, remixes, etc. I thought that the All Things Must Pass Zoetrope was, it was not something that I was interested in, because I don't want to listen to a record standing over my turntable, looking through an app on my phone, watching the record going round and seeing all the pictures move. That is not how I listen to music, and I think that 99% of people don't listen to music like that. So I thought that the Zoetrope thing was maybe a thing just for collectors. It's just something to look at rather than to listen to. So I wasn't really happy with that, and I did do a video on that saying what's the point of it. And but you know, on the contrary to that, the other side of that is the All Things Must Pass box in 2021, the remix and all the outtakes, absolutely brilliant. The Living in the Material World remix with the outtakes, absolutely brilliant. That is what gets me excited with these re-releases, when we're getting something that we haven't had before. And I thought that both of those boxes were done brilliantly with the books and everything. I thought they were superb. So getting back to the matter in hand, Let It Roll coming out on vinyl. Again, I think that this is a lazy release. It's just a digital transfer of the CD that we got in 2009. There's no extra tracks. It's not remixed. What is there to get excited about? The fact that it's coming out on vinyl. You know, the best I can say about it coming out on vinyl is that you know, if there's anything written or any pictures on the inner sleeves, then you'll see them better because they're 12 inches rather than being 5 inches. You know, from the pictures that they've released of the package, we can't even tell whether it's a gatefold or whether it's just two LPs just stuck in a single album cover, which would be disappointing as well. Now, as I've already said, there's no such thing as the perfect compilation album for all fans. But I do think when you're doing a career retrospective like this is, I do think that all of George's albums should be represented in some way, you know, on this compilation. As I say, you know, no one's going to agree on the track listing, but I do think that there should be, you know, at least one track from every George Harrison solo album. There's nothing on this from Dark Horse or 33 1/3, two of my favourite George Harrison solo albums. There's also nothing from Extra Texture or Gontropo, two of my least favourite George Harrison albums. But I do think that they should be represented on a George Harrison compilation. So how could they have made this better? Now, we could point them in the direction of this. Give Me Some Truth, the John Lennon compilation from 2020. Now, what Sean did with this is he took all the hit singles and key album tracks, and he went right across the board from every John Lennon album, remixed them and put them out as a 4 LP 2 CD set. If you bought the CD set, there was a nice book with it as well. I can remember Sean saying when he was talking about the Cube that, you know, he was inspired by what Danny did with the Uber box set. I mean, your opinion on the Cube and the Uber box set, you know, is down to you. But I think at this stage, you know, it's time that Danny took a look at what Sean is doing with the Lennon Estate releases, because everything that they have put out has been absolutely brilliant and spot on, and you know, they are the benchmark for how box sets could be. So, you know, they could have put out you know, a George Harrison compilation album. They could have gone back to the analog tapes for one thing, which would at least made it sound different to how the CD, you know, sounded. They could have given us extra tracks that, you know, that covered all the albums, and they could have done a remix, and that would have given us something to get excited about. But as it stands, you know, I don't think that Let It Roll on vinyl is something that is going to get anyone that owns this CD already that excited about it. It is for people that have to have absolutely everything on vinyl, where despite you know, whether it sounds any better than the CD or not. I think that is going to be the draw. Obviously, you know, it's, you know, because it's getting re-released, it is going to introduce new fans, but it's not going to tell them the whole story. And I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to get this or not. I'm probably not, but I might do. I might cave at the last minute, but it's not something that really excites me. I'll be absolutely honest about it. So summing up, Let It Roll, Songs of George Harrison, coming out on the 11th of July as a 2 LP set. Best price at the moment is georgeharrison.com at £45 if you're in the UK, and you know, the equivalent in your local currency. But georgeharrison.com seems to have the best price at the moment. So are you excited about this? If you are, please tell me about it down in the comments. If you're planning on getting it, do tell me. If you're not planning on getting it and you're disappointed, tell me that as well. As you know, I do read all your comments and I will respond to all your comments. Okay, that is it from me. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video and I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye.